Hello again, and welcome to Thoughts from a TV Geek. My name's Sean Scott.
And I'm Kelly Neal, and we're going to talk about some of our favorite TV shows.
So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. So tonight we want to start out with something called bullet points. Basically just what's going on right now, real brief discussion about. The first thing is that, and I'm very excited, although I don't really watch the show Supergirl, I've only seen the first few episodes, but Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman, she's going to be on as the President Olivia Marston, and that airs on October 24th. So I'm excited about that.
You know, I just may actually have to watch that episode just to see Linda Carter. I really would have liked them to have paid a little homage to her in the movie.
Yes.
Well, actually, not in the movie. The Wonder Woman hasn't come out yet, but it would be nice to see her in there somewhere.
Anywhere, absolutely.
Somewhere along the line, yeah.
I agree. So that episode will be the third episode of the second season, called Welcome to Earth. And next we're going to go to The Walking Dead. They came out with the synopsis.
Right,
for
for
seventh
seventh
season.
season, yeah.
Yep.
So what's the synopsis? I haven't heard it yet.
Okay, so it says, I will read this to you verbatim. The first half of season 7 sees our group fractured, broken, bereaved, and picking up the pieces while living under the thumb of oppression. Negan will have successfully brought the survivors under his control, brutally convincing them to live under his rules, with a deadly and horrific example of what happens if they don't. It goes on to talk about that other characters won't know what's going on. Of course,
Right.
Carol and Morgan, because they weren't with the group. But eventually they will learn, and they will be coming back.
Yeah, that's what I kind of assume that they'll learn somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's a scene in one of the commercials where he's knocking on the gate with his bat.
Yes.
So that's how they're going to find out. He's just going to go there and say, "Hi, I'm here. Do what you're told."
And they released, I don't know if you saw it, but they released a snippet, like 2 minutes of a scene from the first episode. And it is, Rick is still on his knees, and Negan has definitely just killed whoever he killed. And it's their conversation, and it's...
Well, we know who's not going to get killed then. We know
Right.
Rick's not going to get killed.
Right, exactly.
Now, so at this point, everybody assumes it's going to be either Glenn or it's going to be Eugene that's going to be killed. My thought is, okay, Glenn's done, he's out, because that seems to be a general consensus of it all. So my thought is it's going to be him and Maggie. The reason being is that A, she had her hair cut a couple episodes before the end of the season. And so that tells me that she's on another show, they're filming it somewhere, and she had to cut her hair for it. So it's like that was like the last day of shooting for her, and then they moved on.
Right.
So my thought is, okay, those two are going to get whacked, but here's the funny thing, is that it'll be very interesting to see how they do that, because at this point, nobody knows, other than a couple of the people in the group, that she might not be pregnant, because I think maybe she had a miscarriage. That's part of her getting sick.
Right.
So can they bash somebody's head in who's pregnant?
See, I don't think they're going to.
Really?
I'm totally on the side of it's going to be Glenn. And of course, the main reason I'm saying that, yes, is the comics, but I think in that regard, because they already did his fake death,
Right.
and I think that was a setup. That was a setup because the real death is coming. That's my personal.
My understanding is they do kill two.
Really?
Yes.
That I did not hear.
That's what I understand, is that he's actually going to kill two. So
Aha.
to me, that makes sense, because she's a weak link now.
You know,
She's sick, infirmed, and they can't take care of her.
right. Interestingly enough, we both agree that they can't kill Rick, but at the end of that scene, Negan actually drags Rick by the collar into the trailer and says maybe somebody else has to die. I don't think they're going to kill him. I think that's just to scare everybody. But yeah,
She's a liability, not an asset anymore.
Yeah.
So it'd be
We'll
interesting.
find out. We'll definitely find out.
Very interesting.
Yes. We also heard that the new Batman solo movie with Ben Affleck is going to be titled The Batman.
Of course. That's one of the most famous lines everybody recreates is,
Yes.
I'm the Batman.
Exactly.
I mean, Morgan Freeman even said it in the Lego movie with Batman.
Right.
Do you know if Jay Leto is going to be in the Batman series at all? As probably the worst Joker I've ever seen?
I don't know.
It's just...
I haven't watched that movie yet, so I'm not sure. I haven't even seen.
It's just a personal observation. I think that was probably the worst possible person they could have picked.
Really?
Yeah.
I know everybody was afraid of that when the pictures came out because, of course, he looks nothing like you would ever envision.
He looks more like the comics that have, or the cartoon that kind of spread off. So, but I don't buy it.
Didn't buy it.
I bought Jack Nicholson
Oh, sure.
over him. Now it's a different audience. They're going after much younger people. I was probably in my early 20s when the first Batman came out. So
Right.
I get it, and I understand they're going for a sexier fit. He's got a shirt off. He's got tattoos all over him. He looks crazy. I don't know.
Didn't feel like the Joker, huh?
Yeah, I'm not feeling it.
Okay.
I'm not feeling most of Suicide Squad either. Just not feeling it.
All right. They're talking about a Harley Quinn movie or something coming up. Well, in the future,
Well,
anyway.
sex sells, so of course.
So, yeah.
And most of the guys that went to go see that movie went to go see her,
Sure.
not the movie.
Yeah.
Not Jay Leto. The girlfriends went to go see Jay Leto. That's a different story for another day.
Well, next up, the last one, we have Doctor Who. For those Doctor Who fans, we've been waiting all year. We know that the next season is not coming out until next year.
Okay.
But they are going to have the Christmas special. And they do this every year. They have a
Yeah.
Christmas special. It's a separate, standalone
Right.
from the series. And the character of Nardole, who was in last year's Christmas special, which is actually one of my all-time favorite Doctor Who episodes, he will be in this upcoming Christmas special.
Okay.
It's going to be called The Return of Dr. Mysterio. So, I don't know. It could be good. Usually the Christmas specials are funny. So,
See, I think of Christmas specials as far as that's concerned, and I go right back to the Star Wars Christmas special
yeah,
back in
no.
like the 70s, where it was all about I think it was about Chewbacca and his family,
Yes.
and it was so bad that George Lucas said, never again.
No.
So, ever, never. So I actually wonder if he sold the rights to that to Walt Disney, because if Walt Disney has the rights to that, they're going
They'll
to
do
it
something.
again. It's going to happen.
Of course they will.
It's going to come out on DVD, but that may have been part of the contract. Is I'll sell you everything, but you can have this, but burn it. It's never going anywhere.
He probably already has burned it for all we know.
If you look online, you can find VHS copies that people filmed back then.
Yep.
Strangely enough, in the that must have been
Late 70s?
that must have been you must have had like a lot of money to have a VCR back then.
Oh, yeah, and they were the giant VCRs, too.
Oh, yeah.
And top loaders, they popped up.
It could have been a Betamax.
Oh, yep,
Could have been.
it could have been. You're
knows?
correct. We're old.
But they do have, a camera in front of a TV recording it, because I have found it. I was going to buy it, but I wasn't going to pay the money for somebody recording the TV,
Right.
because I wanted to watch it, because of bad memories as a child. That would help.
Oh, it was so awful. It was so awful.
And I do have some other old school movies and TV shows that you may not remember that I'm going to bring up in the next couple episodes that are really bad, but they are some of our most beloved superheroes now.
Ah,
So it'll be interesting.
excellent.
That's a teaser. That's what they call it in the business.
Yeah.
Teaser.
All right, so that is the end of our bullet points.
So next we're going to be talking about The Exorcist. I've been watching the last couple episodes, and I think they're doing a great job at sticking to kind of the original vibe of the movie Exorcist.
Yes.
There was Casey up in the attic, who that whole kind of scene, I think that was the first episode, that whole kind of scene was very reminiscent of the movie, which I thought was great. Then all of a sudden she comes out and she's like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Everything's fine. Which was kind of weird, but So now we're a couple of episodes ahead, and we have Father Thomas meeting with the cardinal, talking about what's going to happen as the Pope comes to town. So they're talking about the routes, what roads they're going to take, and Father Thomas brings up a good point of a lot of your faithful parishioners of the area are in my side of town. I do believe it's the south side. I think it's the south side of Chicago, actually. So, it might be best in your best interest to go down that way. Although the other fathers, like Father Bennett, for instance, is saying, it's a bad area, we shouldn't go there. And the cardinal's kind of like, well, let's hear what he has to say, and kind of agrees with them, and might want the Pope to go down through the darker side of town, because that's where most of his faithful are. As well, so that'll be interesting to see what happens. As well as there was a gentleman who lit himself on fire outside of the hotel that they're staying at, and Father Bennett and Father Thomas went to the window and saw this happening, and were like, all right, this is getting crazy out of hand. There's a lot of crap going on. Casey's seeing people that nobody else is seeing, which we kind of think is supposed to be the devil.
I'm guessing. I don't know.
And he seems like a nice guy. He seems like a father figure, which is kind of weird.
That's kind of how he would come off.
He's making her burn herself, and because she burns herself with a curling iron.
Right.
Which she puts it down out of view, so I wasn't sure if it was to her leg or her stomach or arm. But she seems to have burn marks all over her now, kind of like in just.
And the episode before, when she broke the girl's leg.
She with her mind, with a little help from the devil, I think. A
little help from her friends, yeah.
And she's increasing in her powers. She gets into a fight with, well, I can't say a fight, but she gets into something. It was in the subway, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe it was in a train, subway train, and some powerful satanic shenanigans go on there as well, that everybody sees.
Right.
One last point before we can move on is how Father Marcus, played by Ben Daniels, has been apparently chosen at a very young age, seemed like maybe early teens, to become an exorcist, which is a weird concept that they would take a young man, throw him into a basement-like dungeon, and serve him up to a demon and say, here you go, here's the good book, attaboy, go get him. I don't know if it's a weird kind of tryout process. Hazing must be a real interesting over there in the Vatican. I don't know, but.
I mean, and that's essentially what it was, is that's how they were picking the boys that would move on. And he found his calling, according to him.
Found his calling, but it's funny how they also take him later on in life and go, all right, you're a little too wacky now. We got to put you in the priest home.
Exactly.
Of wayward priests.
Yep.
And yet, in that particular episode, I think there was 2, or the very end of one,
it was
2, where he's talking to what seems to be the devil, because he lifts his head up and you see the extra eye come into play, so it kind of makes you go, okay, they get the devil in the sanctuary.
I found it interesting in the second episode, so the one before the last one, when he effectively, it was like he was losing his power. He put the cross right up to that demon's forehead, and nothing happened. And it's kind of like that, supposedly you have to have that faith and you have to totally believe what you're saying, and it's like he doesn't believe what he's saying anymore.
Now, could that have been part of his excommunication? Because I'm trying to remember where that played out, if that happened before the paperwork of the excommunication or not.
That was, he had ran away, and it was right after he showed up at Father Thomas's.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So.
Well, what's also interesting too, touching on that point, is when Angela, Casey's mom, takes the holy water, puts it in her drink, and she drinks it at the table, and they're both looking at each other like, all right, I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm a demon, and I know what you're trying to do. So she holds off on being sick, then goes upstairs, very casual, very nonchalant, and then just
Oh, that was
everything comes
so
out.
gross. That was a scene where I was making the faces like, oh, didn't want to watch. And then when she pulls the,
Oh, the centipede.
oh, that was
That
so
like
gross.
$5 foot-long centipede. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that was a little on the disgusting side. Yeah,
That
yeah,
was.
a little bit. But then again, going back to the original movie,
Yeah.
there's some things like that that make you go, okay, I can buy this.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Next we have Westworld, and I'm actually really enjoying it. There's only been a couple of episodes so far. It's based on the 1973 Michael Crichton movie that starred Yul Brynner as the Man in Black, which is now played by Ed Harris.
Harris, yes. Which is really good in that show.
Yes, yes, he's really good. It's an amusement park. For those of you that don't know the gist of the story, it's an amusement park basically for the wealthy because it's all robotic hosts and very, very lifelike. Obviously, you can't really tell them apart.
So they take an AI, put it into a theme park in the
Yes.
desert.
Yes, and it's a Western theme,
Yep, okay.
total Western theme. Anthony Hopkins plays Dr. Ford, and he's the genius behind the animatronics.
He's absolutely great. I love Anthony
he's
Hopkins. In anything, I don't think he's ever
Yes.
put out a bad movie.
Yeah, and he is really great in this.
He's a
Really
good
great
actor.
in
Good
this.
actor.
And it's interesting because like they made them to where, you know, you think of programming and you think, you know, you're going in like Data on Star Trek where you're opening them up and doing this and that.
Yep.
All they're doing is talking to them, and through talking to them, they're reprogramming them.
Right.
And all that stuff.
So they're kind of
it's, like,
using
totally,
voice recognition
Yeah.
to change their inner programming and their
Yep.
iOS, software.
they're in a software. They're you know. But what's happening now gradually, and I really like they're going so slow, but it's actually really I really like how they're doing it. You can see just the hints of some spark of recognition with
Right.
memories and stuff like that.
Well, I see what you're saying. What I think's kind of happening is that they've used them so many times that they're starting to recall some of their past programming.
Mm-hmm.
So as that's been imprinted on them and they've changed from narrative to narrative, because I assume after so often they kind of rotate them around a little bit, and a character that's doing this is now a character over here
Yes.
to keep them updated.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having issues with the updates, so I think that's what it's going to turn out to be, is that they've been used so many times that they're starting to recall these deleted memories.
Like they had to do with the father.
Yes.
They had to, I mean, he got removed. He got put into that big room with all of them standing there naked,
Yeah.
you know, because they can't use them anymore. Maeve, who is brilliantly played by Thandel Newton, who was in Crash. She was
Yep.
in ER.
She's very good in Crash.
We learn that she's having nightmares. And the nightmares, though, it's like it's her past life. And you find that apparently she had a daughter and they were chased by Indians. And it was this whole theme thing going on. But she's actually dreaming it.
Right, but that's how I say that's a
Yeah.
for me. That's a connection of, past programming is.
Yes.
She had a family. She lived on a farm. Her home got attacked by the Indians. I'm assuming. The Man in Black keeps coming out in everybody's
Yep.
old dream. So maybe at some point, he saved them or something, and now he's changed.
I think that he's been a client for so long. Like he goes there.
That's right. He
all
said
the
something about
time.
going there for 30 years.
So I mean, he knows all of them, and and like in the second episode where he just, he shot up practically a whole town, and it seems so callous on the one hand, and on the other hand, they're robots, so at least he's not doing that out in the real world. But then again, they're reliving this, and starting to remember it.
Right.
So it's really interesting.
It's kind of like shock trauma, where you have a traumatic event that happens, and sometimes the mind says, okay, I'm not going to remember this because I need to heal. And then over time, it starts to kind of creep back out again. It happens with people all the time, have a traumatic event as a child, and they forget for 20, 30 years, and something comes along that sparks a memory, and they start going, oh my God, something actually happened. So it kind of sounds like the same type of scenario.
Exactly. And I like how they've brought in, we're seeing the client's perspective now with the actor Jimmy Simpson. He was in Breakout Kings, which I really liked. He played Lloyd in that, and he's a really good actor. And he plays William, who is a new client, and they follow him through getting his look, and the whole 9 yards.
I thought that was interesting. We have your
and they're on the
measurements.
train.
And
That's how they go in. It was really cool, really cool. So I'm liking it so far. I'm really enjoying it.
I am curious where they're going to go with it, because with the having the memories, these memories, and having these nightmares, it's weird how they have to keep jumping back and forth. So they go back, to kind of start all over again, but the narrative has changed a little bit.
A little bit.
So then they go back a third and fourth time and fifth time, and the narrative keeps changing.
And it's always going to change depending on what the customer does.
Right,
if the customer runs into them and something else happens,
Right, but you do have multiple clients there at the same time.
Yep.
So how can you change one narrative if another narrative is going on at the same time?
I don't know. It was interesting. It's interesting.
I did like how Anthony Hopkins' character has come up with this idea of a whole new town.
Yes.
And I'm really kind of interested to see how that's going to go, because one of the people that help programming has just come up with a whole batch of new people, and he comes around and says, forget it, we're going to do something different.
But you know what it is? He's not interested in just that story, just that's a surface layer. He's really I think he's really digging deep. I would not be surprised to find out he's looking to give them consciousness. That's where he's digging. That's what he ultimately would love.
Yeah.
But that would be too scary for everybody to go with.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I see where you're going with that, and I think you might be right.
They say video killed the radio star. I say probably should have taken a second opinion. I'm Nathaniel Morse. Welcome to Thoughts from a Podcast Geek, where I tell you all the things you should be listening to. Do you find yourself searching for something to listen to? Do you find yourself wanting more people to watch you? Do you find yourself wandering through the desert at midnight, having no idea where you came from, with a government van slowly creeping up behind you conspicuously? Then you should listen to Welcome to Night Vale, one part Orwellian nightmare, one part community radio, one part Twilight Zone episode. Hosted by Cecil Baldwin. The show is an amalgamation of everything that is weird and amazing. The show itself features this little town of Night Vale in the middle of the desert, where the craziest things can happen, will happen. In the first episode, they do talk about how dogs are not allowed in the dog park. People are not allowed in the dog park. And you should probably not think about the dog park for generally too long. Additionally, probably should ignore the hooded figures that are also in the dog park. As you can see, the show is a bit strange, but definitely something you should check out. And if you need to tell me a podcast that I should listen to, try @TFA Podcast Geek, and you can send anything to me there. And now back to your scheduled programming.
I hope you enjoyed that little segment that we are now airing of Thoughts from a Podcast Geek with Nate. He did a very good job.
Absolutely.
So now we're going to take it to Fear the Walking Dead. We are at the end of the season, and a lot of things have happened. There was a double back-to-back episode, which I thought they should have just run it without commercials, but
I didn't understand that either, but yes.
It's like they just said, you know what, we've run out of time, we just got to squish them together and we'll go with it. Great,
right.
Fine, which is fine. Annoying, but fine. So we left off with Ophelia being picked up by what looks like the local militia, which is a good thing because she was kind of on her own. The dead were coming after her, and she needed a little bit of help. So it's good that she got picked up by Border Patrol. It looks like it's Border Patrol. We're going to move on to, we have Alejandro sacrificing himself for the better good of Colonia, which is a good thing that he did because he absolutely lied to everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even though Nick is the only one who read through the BS.
Yes.
That's fine. He's an addict. He can read through BS.
And he got, I mean, he helped get him to change his mind and to get everybody out of there, even though they wind up getting into a bit of trouble themselves.
Yes. So you have Nick and
Luciana.
Luciana out in the road trying to save their people.
Yep.
Fortunately, they come across what looks like some more Border Patrol, and that's fine, but maybe not so. They didn't seem to like them trying to cross the border.
No, did not work out in their favor at all.
No. I guess if you're one person, it's one thing, but if you're like 50, 60 people.
Exactly.
And they were all walking, maybe they were walking too slow,
I don't know.
I haven't seen any Walking Dead walking around with guns in their hands or knapsacks or other children, so it's kind of weird. But they could have just been, here comes a horde, let's just get rid of them and be done with it.
Overly cautious.
Overly cautious. So, but they did keep Nick and Luciana alive.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens. Yes.
They are still alive. And Travis, of course, is back with Madison, and unfortunately, he gets the news of what happened to Chris.
Yeah, that was a little tough to take.
Yeah. I kind of suspected that was going to happen, and it was interesting because it's like you don't know. Even when they're talking about it, you don't know. Are they telling the truth? Are they lying? Until they actually show it,
right.
And then Chris is gone, and as any father would, Travis,
he lost his ever-living mind.
But I don't think there's a father out there that wouldn't say I'd do the same thing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, unfortunately, getting him kicked out, and I thought that it was pretty interesting that it was the daughter that actually spoke up and said that we should have to go with him.
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. I don't think they got along very well.
No.
In before this all happened, I thought they were kind of a little strained.
Yeah, but I wonder. We talked last time about teenagers and stuff in this growing up in this world, and I wonder if her growing up so fast, and it was simply the reason of that's the only family they have left, and he's not going to make it on his own. Is her assumption? They have to go together, Right. So instead of the tough guy Chris route of kill everybody and this and that, she actually had the attitude of no, we need to stay together, even if that means leaving the safety of the hotel. Right.
Well, which leaves Victor Strand.
Yes.
He says, no, I'm not going.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm comfortable. I'm good. But that could prove in the next season to be a very bad move for him.
It could.
Because it looks like the bad guys, Mexican gangs, drug lords, whatever they're called, are going to be hitting the hotel soon.
Right, exactly.
But I guess we'll have to just wait for next year to come to be
next
able to
season.
see that. So,
Exactly.
so we're pretty much at the end of our rope, so to speak, and we're getting ready to close the show.
Make sure you check out our new Facebook page, Thoughts from a TV Geek. Also, check out our website. You can see all our episodes on thoughtsfromatvgeek.com. And if you want to contact me personally, I'm at Kelly E. Neal on Twitter.
And if you want to contact me, you can. Bye.